Welcome back to our introduction to C++. In this part, we're going to learn about conditionals. So let's make our new folder. So new folder, this is part 3, and we are going to be learning about conditionals. So I'm going to make a new file. This is going to be called conditionals.cpp. So let's start with writing our main method. So int main, and we're going to just return 0. So what we're going to do is work with different conditionals in C++. We're going to learn how to use an if statement and how to check if values are true or not. So let's get started with a simple method that is whether or not you should knock on my office door. So we're going to make a new method, and let's have this return a bool. So bool, we'll call this knock on door, and it takes in 2 parameters. One is whether or not I'm in my office and whether or not the door is open. So the idea is that if I'm in my office and the door isn't open, knock on my door. Otherwise, you don't need to knock on my door. Now, you would know I'm not in my office because my office has a glass door. So unfortunately or fortunately, I cannot hide. So you'll always know if I'm in my office, so there's no need to knock on the door if no one's in there. So a bool returns a true false value, 1, 0. So this will be called prof here. And another bool will be called door open. If I'm in my office and my door is not open, knock on my door. So what we're going to return is true if I'm in my office and my door isn't open. Otherwise, we're going to return false. So if prof is here and 2 ampersands, the door is not open, we can do an exclamation point, door open, and this is saying that the door is not open. If this case, we want to return true. So we can say return true. Otherwise, we're going to always return false. So always return false. Let's now call this method in our main method to test it. And let's outprint the result. Since we're going to be outprinting, we need to include our IO string. So let's go up to the top here and let's write include IO string. And since I'm going to be using cout, I also want to say using namespace std. So using namespace std. So let's do a test round of this. So let's say cout knock on door. And let's say I'm in my office and the door is not open. Let's run our code and see what's outprinted. So go to terminal, run build task, and then we'll open our terminal in part 3 and run conditionals. 1. Which is true. So this is saying that we are going to knock on the door. Maybe I don't like the outprint of it being 1 or 0. Maybe that doesn't really make sense to me. Well, I can use something called a ternary operator, which then will say I'm going to outprint knock or don't knock. So let's make a variable here that is a string. We'll call this result. And we're going to do something called a ternary operator. So we're going to take this knock on door. And if this returns true, then we're going to say knock. Otherwise, don't knock. So this is our result using our string. Now, what we're going to outprint is result. So replace that. Let's build this and see what outprints. So run the build task, go to PowerShell, we run conditionals, and we outprinted knock. So now you know how to use a ternary operator. This is saying if knock on door returns true, then do knock, otherwise don't knock. So now we've learned how to do an AND operator. Let's do an OR. So I have two cats, and if either one of my cats are not happy, I'm in trouble. So let's do kitty trouble. So I'm going to return a bool, and I'm going to call this kitty trouble, and it's going to take in two states. One of my, if cat A is happy and cat B is happy. So let's say bool cat A happy, bool cat B happy. If neither one is happy, I'm in trouble, so I'll return true. Otherwise, I'll return false. If cat A is not happy, so cat A is not happy with our exclamation point, or cat B is not happy, then I have to return that I'm in trouble. Return true. Otherwise, we return false. I'm going to shrink this terminal a little bit. All right, so let's now outprint the result. So I can use the same result string again. So I can say result equals kitty trouble. I'm going to say both my cats are happy, so I'm not in trouble. So true, true. Now we are doing our ternary operator. So this returns true or false. So we say if this returns true, then in trouble. Otherwise, not in trouble. So see out, result. So our expected result would be not in trouble because we're going to get back false. So let's build this and see what our result is. So run our build task, go to our PowerShell, and we have our knock and then our not in trouble. So you see here, it all outprints on the exact same line. If we want a line break, we need to say that we want a line break. We can go see out here, result, and call this end line. And this will print out a line break for us. The same idea here. So let's run this again. So build, PowerShell, knock, not in trouble. There we go. Now again, this can be simplified to return cat A not happy or cat B not happy. We can also check if something is equal to each other. So let's take two integers and see if they're equal. So we're going to have a bool and we'll say integers are equal. Int x and int y. And we'll say if they're equal to each other, we're returning true. Otherwise, we return false. So we could say if x equal y, return true and return false. Or we can say return x equal y. So this is saying if the two are equal to each other. Let's test this code. So we're just going to do a 1 or 0 for this one. So we'll say cout integers are equal, and we'll pass 3 and 4. Those are definitely not equal, right? So we should get back a 0. So let's run build task, PowerShell, knock, not in trouble, and 0. Awesome. How about you play around with making this a ternary operator that says that it's equal or not equal after we're done. So one more thing, we can also check if something is even. We can do something called a modulo. And I also want to show you that you don't always have to return a specific type. So what if you just wanted your method to outprint a result and you didn't need anything coming back here? Well, that's called a void. So we're going to make a void method, and we'll call this number is even. And we're going to take in a number and check whether or not it's even. So int x. So we can determine if a number is even if it's divisible by 2. So how can we check if something's divisible by 2? We use something called modulo. So if x mod, which is a %, 2. So this says, what this does is it says, what is the remainder for x? If x doesn't have a remainder, which means it's 0, then it's even. If it does have a remainder, it's odd. So if this equals 0, then we're going to outprint that the number is even. So cout number is even, semicolon. Otherwise, we're going to print out the number is odd. And we only want to print it out if it's not true. So here we need to use else. So if this statement isn't true, then it's going to do this statement. So else cout number is odd. So let's go down to our main method and test this. So there's no line break on my integers are equal. So I'm going to add a little line break so we don't have the 0 and 1 right on each other. So I'm going to do end line. And then I'm going to call number is even. Let's say number is even, and this is going to be 5. We know that's odd, so we should get an outprint that number is odd. So let's run this. Building, going to our PowerShell, number is odd. Perfect. In this case, we have our number is even, number is odd, and we have no line break. And we always want to do a line break. We can either add the end line to each one of these individually, or you could do something like this, cout end line. And this will always occur. So no matter what, if the number is even or the number is odd, we'll always outprint a line break afterwards. So congratulations, you have now learned how to work with conditionals in C++. You've learned how to use the AND operator, the OR operator, seeing if something is equal to each other. You've learned your mod. You've learned how to use if statements and the else. And you've also learned how to use ternary operators.